Braxcast time once again. This is the 45th episode of the Braxcast. It's also the last episode of the Braxcast for 2024. This is a really exciting one. We've got the Rippaveal that was on Friday, December 27th, over half an hour. A lot of announcements. We're going to break that all down and get into it. But first, want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Hopefully, you guys are having a good holiday season. I definitely want to showcase this piece of art featuring Common America and Yaira superpowering a Christmas tree. Absolutely love it. Fantastic piece of art. Really shows the great working relationship between Rippaverse and Iconic Comics. And I definitely wanted to highlight that. And then there's also something concerning myself. So you might have seen this on Twitter. This is from Nefertiti Seti. She posted a while back saying she wanted to read some Rippaverse books. So I sent her some from my collection, of course. What I currently have in my collection, I want to keep close to my chest. So I'm not doing this for anybody else, but I thought it was a nice thing to do. Holiday season is definitely forgiving. I'm glad she got the books in good condition. You never know how media mail is going to get stuff to people. But I just want to confirm that, yes, I did give these books away to her. It was me, and definitely want to do more giveaways in the future. And of course, there's more flash sales, and I can pick up, older books for a cheap price. Then I definitely want to give back to this fantastic community. But with all of that out of the way, we're going to get into the Rippaveal, and we're going to break down all of the 14 books that were talked about in detail. Since printer ink costs more than human blood, I want to break that down on my computer screen recording setup with all the pictures associated with the various books. But if you just want a bird's eye view, I don't want to spend too much time thinking about this. Just want to know what was talked about in the Rippaveal. I'm going to go over the list of books that were talked about. So for graphic novels, we got Zalen. That was announced. We know about that. Salvage is getting his own graphic novel in Salvage Lethal Force. And both Lillian Renashi and Michael Copper are getting their own graphic novels in The Cursed and The Black Eye Club. That's written by Jen and Sylvia Soska, respectively. So they're each soloing one book. Mike Barron is writing Delta Base, kind of a heel for the Alpha Core. And Gooding is getting another graphic novel as well. We've got two limited series that are coming out in Norfolka Glorious Death and The Great War of Separation. And we've got new issues for current ongoing series in Isom 3, Yaira 2, Alpha Core number 2, and Bloodroof number 2. And we've got two new ongoing series. So Horseman is getting an ongoing series after that Welcome to Forest Park knocked it out of the park with 800,000 in sales. And Saoirse, being the star hit of the Ripazine, with her short story in the second issue of the Ripazine, is now greenlit to have a full ongoing series. But with that, we are going to go deeper into the Rippaveal. So if you want a more in-depth take on all these books and a look at some of the covers, then stay tuned because I'm going to show you all of that right now. Hello guys, this is the Rippaveal breakdown part of the Braxcast. So we're going to break down the entire Rippaveal, but first I'm going to give a little overview of what the Rippaveal even is. So this is something like a Nintendo Direct or Sony State of Play, basically going over their release schedule for the current year. Upcoming. They want to have this be an ongoing thing, but they're only going to do this on a needed basis. So they're not going to schedule a certain amount and try to hype stuff up or hamstring things in to fit a release schedule. It's going to be as needed as the release schedule demands it. And we've got a really good showing here. So a couple of things. Most of these books are coming out in 2025. It's only Mike Barron's books that don't have that set 2025 release date. We don't have any specific months and days for the release days. And also some books are going to be shorter than the typical 96 pages to shorten the amount of time between issues in a series, which I think is a great thing. And of course, there wasn't any explicit confirmation of the third issue of the Ripazine, but that is something that is most likely going to happen. And if the Ripazine hits that quarterly basis, then around this time next year will probably be around issue 5 or 6. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the Rippaveal started with showing off the Rippaverse Trinity and Zalin. So we already know about Zalin. This is a really cool cover. I'm pretty sure we saw that. We got a little bit more of some visuals about that, but we know for sure this is coming in 2025. Chuck Dixon is writing it. Marcos Martin is coloring the book, and it is drawn by Joe Bennett. Absolutely hyped for this one. First cosmic character of the Rippaverse. He's going to have a deep involvement with the Rippaverse from what Chuck Dixon was talking about, but there wasn't anything really big that we got in this that really gives us an insight. And of course, we don't have a really solid release date, as in, month or year or season. Not month or season, I should have said. But we're going to go into the next one. And like I said, Mike Baron is sticking with the Rippaverse. So we're getting more Gooding. And we're also getting a book called Delta Base. So this is an entirely new property. Of course, Gooding, it's most likely going to be a sequel to Gooding the Polymath, which was an absolutely fantastic book. Definitely think we need more Gooding. I know a lot of the fans agree with that as well. And of course, Mike Baron is an absolutely fantastic writer, so that he is writing another book called Delta Base, and he was very vague with what Delta Base is, but they seem to be a heal, or at least a response to the existence of Alpha Core. So they're going to be a really interesting superhero or vigilante team, anti-hero team, villain team, whatever you want, whatever they're going to be. But we'll find out, and we'll see what Delta Base exactly is, but I would say these are going to both be graphic novels, and I'm sure Mike Baron is going to be writing even more stuff for the Rippaverse because we've got that and more. But this was definitely the most vague and least announcements with the least amount of information associated with them. Everything else, we've got more solid stuff. But we're going to go into the next one, and Bloodroof. So we've got Bloodroof number 2. So Bloodroof number 1 is going to start fulfillment next month in January, and with this Rippaveal showcase, we've got the confirmation that Bloodroof number 2 is going to be coming out in 2025. Hopefully they hit that Halloween release and they can get it to us before the end of this year. That would be the fantastic thing. We'll see how that ends up. This is an absolutely beautiful cover, and if I can get the information here, it's drawn by Wagner Rice with colors by Marcos Martins, who's the same colorist who's doing Zalin. But we're going to go into yet again the next book. So this is the first new limited series, and we've got a Great War of Separation. So the Great War of Separation is a big event that really influenced the formation of the current Rippaverse, the origins of Solari and a bunch of other characters ties to the Great War of Separation, and we are getting this as a limited series written by Chuck Dixon and drawn by Jack Herbert. This is most likely what Chuck Dixon was talking about when he said this 200-page plus epic. So this is most likely going to be 3 issues around the length of Alpha Core number 1. It's going to really give us a lot of backstory and information on how Texas became its own country, how Forest Park became its own city-state, and of course how Solari went from being a soldier to being the founder of the Alpha Core. So this is a really interesting book. I'm really excited for this. Of course, as someone who cares a lot about the universe aspect of the Rippaverse, having the Great War of Separation get a really good, solid explanation is exactly what I want. And I think Chuck Dixon is probably the best person to deliver it, given how good of a writer he is, and especially related to the Rippaverse with how good Alpha Core 1 is and how good Horseman is, and given the fact that he's got a lot of experience with Brian Solari, and this is definitely going to be a story that focuses a lot on Brian Solari. Going to be really interesting to see this one. We're going to finally, figure out what the Great War of Separation exactly is, and how it went down, and why a lot of things in the current timeline, the Rippaverse, are the way that they are. It's because of the Great War of Separation, and having a limited series that really gives us the nitty gritty details of that, with great script by Chuck Dixon and Jack Herbert drawing it. I am absolutely stoked for this one, and it's coming in 2025. So we're going to the next one, and now Salvage is Salvage was a short story that was released in the first issue of the Rippaveal, and everybody absolutely loved it, myself included, and people were clamoring for a full-length story of Salvage, and that is what we are getting in 2025. So Eric July is staying on as the writer, Bart Sears is staying on as the artist, and it's a graphic novel that is coming in 2025. So it's a Salvage Lethal Force. So I absolutely love that new art style. Bart Sears put a lot of love into the few pages that he did draw for Salvage PI in Rippaveal #1, and giving him a full length book to really let the story of Salvage breathe and develop is going to be an absolutely fantastic thing to see. Love the cover for this as well. Salvage looks really epic on this one, and like I said, there's just this noir style that I absolutely love, and it just really draws me in. Like the text, I'd say the font on his logo, like I said, the art style, everything about it just screams noir, and it just feels so cool and classy. Absolutely love to see it. Really hyped for this one. Glad that they listened to the fans and they greenlit a full graphic novel for this. It's going to be coming out in 2025, so really excited for this one. We've got Yaira #2, and we knew about Yaira #2, and the Saskas sort of spilled the beans on this one, but to have this confirmed, have the basically this is the same art team that worked on Yaira #1 staying on to go and work on Yaira #2, and this is going to be dealing with the fallout of Yaira #1, which is an epic issue, probably so far my favorite book of the Rippaverse. So it's going to be really interesting to see how her story develops, and it's of course fantastic to see that, like I said, the same creative team is staying on and working this, and this is early 2025, so this is like the closest we've gotten in this Rippaveal to a solid release date. But I'm assuming it's probably going to come out, the pre-order collection is going to come out around the same time as the first Yaira did, so probably around March seems to be what I'm thinking here. But regardless, this is a really exciting one. We knew this was going to happen, but to get a nice trailer, to get a cover reveal, and of course that confirmation of the same creative team sticking on through Yaira #1 to work on Yaira #2 is fantastic as well. And hopefully they keep pumping these out, because Yaira's story is really interesting, and I'm really excited to see how it develops, even beyond #2. But we're going to go into the next story, and Norfolka is getting their own limited series. So everybody who was clamoring since day one of the Rippaverse being revealed, and we knew Norfolka was a thing, everybody was like, we need a Norfolka book. We need it now, and I definitely was in staunch agreement, because Norfolka is a really interesting, I guess, set of characters, because this is a metal band headlined by 2 7-foot-tall gods, right? Just such an interesting concept. Imagine the groupies that they have, and of course there's a very specific role that they play within the Rippaverse. Eric July talked about this a lot in the Rippaveal when he had that sit down explanation breaking this down, saying there's a lot of important stuff that Norfolka is involved in, so giving them their own limited series to really give us a good insight on that. Of course, provide lots of action and intrigue surrounding these characters, because there's so much with these characters. We got so little in ISO #1, so it's really going to be fun to see these characters developed and expanded in their own limited series, which is starting in 2025. Eric July is the writer for this, and Ronaldson Farrar, I can never say his last name, but he's drawing this book. He's done some covers for the Rippaverse. I believe he did Gooding cover C, that foiled and embossed one, an absolutely fantastic cover. He did some Norfolka artwork, and that appeared in the Rippaverse calendar for 2025, which is really cool. So I think that's a really nice, nod. But of course, he was working on Norfolka, did a piece for the Rippaverse calendar that has Norfolka in it as well, is a very fitting thing. But Norfolka is definitely the most, I would say, intriguing group in the Rippaverse other than Alpha Core, and definitely I think other than Yaira, they were the standout characters in Isom #1. Of course, other than Isom. But people love Norfolka. Everybody wanted a Norfolka book. If this was not announced in the first Rippaveal, this would have become like the Thousand Year Door remaster, where people would have been like, are we getting a Norfolka book this Rippaveal? But fortunately, we don't have to worry about that, since Rippaverse loves to listen to the fans, and they're giving us what we want and giving us Norfolka Glorious Death. And this is a limited series, not an ongoing series, but I think it's nice to have things start out as a limited series and not overcrowd the amount of ongoing series that you have. I think that creates a bit of a problem where you're oversaturating things. So having a limited series for Norfolka is going to be fantastic. Can't wait to see what they bring out, and can't wait to see what the story is, because I think, like Great War of Separation, this book is going to be foundational into building that deep lore of the Rippaverse, which is what you need. You need deep lore if you want to have a comic book universe, or any universe that people can get really invested in, to the degree that people have gotten invested in DC and Marvel. But we're going to move on to the next one. So Lilian Ronashi is getting her own graphic novel in The Cursed. This is written only by Jen Saska. We don't have any artists associated with this project quite yet. This is all going to come, and as we get into the new year and these books get their pre-orders, or they're just straight up released, we'll learn what the art teams are associated with these books. But we know that Jen Saska is writing this book. It's going to really delve deep into Lilian Renashi's character. Of course, she first appeared in Isom #1. She had a good appearance in Alpha Core #1 as well. And of course, she's been in the Florist Park Gazette with Lilian Renashi's Hot Tea, right? Very fun to read. If you've read that part of the Rippazine, it really gives some good insight into her character. But this is going to be a really great deep dive into Lilian. Of course, it's going to be really interesting to see just what she's like. We didn't learn basically anything about her in Isom #1, because it had like 2 pages, both her and Michael Copper in Isom #1, and they were definitely working through a lot of other people and Alpha Core #1, which is really interesting. I love the way Michael Copper and Lilian Renashi go about being villains. It's extremely interesting. And also they do appear in Horseman, the Horseman, at the very end of the Horseman. They have a very small appearance as well. So it's mostly been cameos. They definitely were the main villains in Alpha Corp, but like I said, we didn't learn that much about them because of how they operate. But hopefully I'd say this book is definitely going to give us a really good, deep insight into the character of Lilian, her, I'm not sure if it's going to be exactly her origins, but definitely we'll know more about her origins after reading this book than we did before. This is going to be a really interesting one. Absolutely love to see expanding and developing this character further, because she's definitely had a role in the Rippaverse. And this is along with Michael Copper. So Sylvia Saska is writing The Black Eye Club. This is going to be the graphic novel that expands upon Michael Copper. Of course, Michael Copper appearing in all those same books that I just mentioned, Isom #1, Alpha Core #1, and The Horseman Welcome to Florist Park. He has the Michael Copper's Gentleman Club in the Florist Park Gazette, which is really great characterization as this a sleazy playboy. Absolutely love that type of character. Seeing that type of character in his own book, and with the power set that he has, both of their powers are associated with their eyes. Michael Copper's more so, since he can see through walls, and I think he can also basically see people's desires and give them to them. That's what the trailer was getting at, and I absolutely love the idea of Michael Copper as a character, and it does definitely seems like there's going to be some like mysticism and some occult stuff associated with this book, and probably with Lilian's book as well. So seeing both these books is going to be really interesting, and having that context of these characters that you can apply retroactively to Alpha Core #1, and then as they make appearances throughout Alpha Core and other books in the Rippaverse, knowing about these characters through both of these books is going to be a really fun thing to see. Absolutely excited for this. And this is just like with The Cursed. We only know the writer, and that is Sylvia Saska. So, both twins are taking one book and writing it themselves. But, Blood Roof and Yaira are written by both of them. Just to clarify, but we do not have any artists associated with either Black Eye Club or The Cursed as of right now. Of course, we'll get that information sometime during the new year. So another ongoing, or I'd say this ongoing series, The Horseman is confirmed as an ongoing series. So we had the first Horseman book, Horseman Welcome to Flores Park, that made $800,000. People absolutely loved it. Had that animation pilot for an animated series that if we hit these member goals around 5,000, we're at like 20% last time I checked. But anyway, the comic itself is successful that they're greenlighting this for an ongoing series with Chuck Dixon, Joe Bennett, Jay Brown being the art team associated with it. So the same writer and artist for Horseman Welcome to Flores Park are going to be working on the ongoing series. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely love to see it. Horseman Welcome to Flores Park was a really great book, established a really interesting character, and it did end as a one-shot that was like, well, Horseman could just not do anything else, but does not seem to be the case. Horseman is going to be a character that is deeply involved in the Rippaverse, since he will have an ongoing series, so there's going to be a lot of street-level stuff that we'll find out about through the eyes of Horseman. Chuck Dixon is going to be bringing it to life. Absolutely love to see it. So when Chuck Dixon was talking about Horseman number 2, I believe this is the book that he was talking about. So he's talking about the first Horseman, issue number 1 of the Horseman, and Welcome to Flores Park. It's basically the prequel to the ongoing series that is the Horseman. Absolutely love that structure. Of course, there's definitely a lot more we can do with the Horseman. Not a lot more, actually a decent amount. You could definitely have a limited series of his time in Drescher that starts with his origins. Would absolutely love to see that. But for now, getting a Horseman or getting a Horseman ongoing series is a really nice thing. Definitely think this is a good character to give an ongoing series to, because the fans absolutely loved him. And like I said, being that street level character means that there's a lot of low level street stuff in Flores Park that can be hashed out and really developed through an ongoing series in The Horseman. Like I said, he's got a really cool character. He looks really cool. He is really cool. And just the way he goes about taking down enemies is absolutely fantastic to see. So having him, develop and, learn more about him through an ongoing series is going to be a really interesting thing to see. I definitely think this is a good decision. This is definitely something I think the fans are happy with. Like I said, the first book, Welcome to Forest Park, made $800,000. So people want more Horsemen, and an ongoing series is definitely going to give that to them. But we're moving on to the next book, which is Isom number 3. So Isom number 3, again, this is a book that we knew about, but to get a trailer, breaking it down, getting a cover associated with Isom number 3 is, of course, always really cool to see. This book is coming in 2025. We don't have a release date, but I imagine it's going to be coming out earlier in 2025, since the coloring is most likely complete at this point, and they're just lettering, doing the editing, and then they're probably going to be going to the press very soon. So this is a very exciting thing to see. We're going to get that nice juicy conclusion to the ill-advised arc. It's going to be over the length of Isom number 2. So it's going to be well over 120 pages of story. So this is going to be absolutely fantastic. A real good, like I said, a great meaty conclusion to the ill-advised arc, which is the first arc of the Rippaverse. So can't wait to see how the arc that started it all for the Rippaverse ends. And like I said, after Isom number 3, I think from a story perspective, things are going to really heat up. And even with everything that we've got, we are in a really fantastic spot at the end of the year. With Isom number 3 coming out and all these books having come out, for a lot of lore and world building to happen in the Rippaverse pretty rapidly in 2026 and beyond, with all the books that we've got. And Isom number 3 is going to be a really essential part of that. But we're moving on to the next ongoing series. So we've got 2 ongoing series that were announced. So Horseman is getting an ongoing series, and Saoirse is getting an ongoing series. So Ripazine number 2, believe that did better than Ripazine number 1. And in Ripazine number 2, we had a short story by Eric July, written by Eric July, with Kanan White doing the art, about the same length, not vaguely in the same vein, since Salvage has that Lethal Force certification and Saoirse does as well. They're similar in that sense, but they're definitely different characters, and Saoirse is getting her own ongoing series, with Eric July and Kanan White being the creative team associated with it, as far as that we currently know of. We don't know the colorist, but that is certainly okay. This is definitely a really exciting one. If I had to, pick, probably would have given Norfolka the ongoing series and Saoirse a limited series, but I don't think it's a bad call to give Saoirse a ongoing series. She's definitely a really interesting character. Absolutely loved that little story that we got in the Ripazine. It was definitely too short to really let the intrigue and interest of her as a character breathe, but we are going to get plenty of runtime to develop Saoirse's story as she is getting her own ongoing series. So there's definitely going to be a lot to delve into and develop with this character. She might even cross paths with Salvage, Horseman, who knows? We'll find out as we get Saoirse number 1, of course, all the other issues going forward in the future. And having Kanan White do consistent interior work for the Rippaverse is a dream come true, because he is just such a fantastic artist. So definitely a fantastic choice on all of those grounds to give Saoirse her own ongoing series. Definitely am going to keep an eye on this one. Absolutely love Saoirse as a character, not just because of her, extreme attractiveness, being this, voluptuous redhead, right? But she's got the LF certification. She's, very intelligent. She's trained in, ranged and close quarters combat as well. So she's just a really interesting and intriguing character, and that is the perfect type of character to give an ongoing series, because you read every issue and you just need to know what happens next. And I imagine Saoirse's books are going to be page turners like that. But we're going to go into Alpha Core number 2. So Alpha Core number 2 is one of my most anticipated books from the Rippaverse, and this was something that we assumed was going to happen since it is an ongoing series, but we got that hard confirmation that the book is coming. It's coming out in 2025. Chuck Dixon, Joe Bennett are on the book, just like they were with Alpha Core number 1. Deals with all the fallout that happens at the end of Alpha Core number 1. Really exciting, because there's a lot of stuff that happened in Alpha Core number 1 that they are definitely going to have to pay hell for. So we're going to see all of that happen. Now, the really interesting thing is if what happened in Yair number 1 is going to apply to Alpha Core number 2. Not sure if it is. They didn't, explicitly confirm that, but that definitely is something I am really waiting to see if that is the case. But regardless, it's very exciting to see these ongoing series get their second issues, because that's really where the fun happens, is seeing the stories develop instead of just them getting started. So we're definitely getting out of the laying the foundation and building up the building that is the Rippaverse universe, and that is the really exciting thing. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited for Alpha Core number 2, is because I just want to see this develop and build and expand more, and that's what we're beginning to see with the Rippaverse. So that is all I have for you guys. So we want to go back to, yes, Rippaveal Showcase. So that was everything announced in the Rippaveal Showcase. I think this was a fantastic showing. It was paced really well. They, started off as a slow burn, and then they got progressively more exciting. Of course, getting that Norfolka book announced was definitely I would say, the highlight for a lot of fans. But everything that they talked about is stuff that I wanted, is stuff that made sense to announce for this showcase, and it definitely is going to give the fans a lot of hype and excitement going into 2025. And this really shows that the Rippaverse took the mandate that they got from the fans, with getting $3.7 million in ISOM number 1 and about 2.4 in ISOM number 2, to say, we want you to build a comic book company. We want you to make a comic book universe, and they are definitely executing on that. Absolutely love to see that they are doing that, and I really am excited to cover and review all these books. So stay tuned for that. But that concludes the breakdown of the Rippaveal Showcase. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Okay, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that breakdown of the Rippaveal. So much stuff going into 2025. Really excited for it. Stay tuned because 2025 is going to be a big year. I'm going to be covering it all. It's going to be a big year for the Rippaverse and for the Braxcast. So be sure to stay tuned to the Braxcast to have all the updates. Happy New Year. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of the year. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.